The crystal chandelier cast dancing shadows across the marble floor as Kiana pressed herself against the cold wall of the hallway. Her heart hammered against her ribs so violently she was certain everyone in the mansion could hear it. Through the crack in the door she watched Matteo De Luca, the most feared man in Chicago, pace his study like a caged panther, speaking rapid Italian into his phone. She shouldn't be here. The other staff had been dismissed hours ago, but she'd returned for her grandmother's locket, left behind in her rush to leave. Now she was trapped, overhearing words that made her blood run cold. "Tradimento!" he spat into the phone. Morte, betrayal, death. Kiana's hand flew to her mouth. She understood every word. Every single word of the language she'd sworn never to speak again, the language that connected her to memories she'd buried deep. Matteo's head suddenly snapped toward the door. Their eyes met through the gap. Time stopped. His expression shifted from surprise to something darker, more dangerous. He ended the call with a single word, never breaking eye contact with her. Aspetta. Wait. Kiana ran. 3 weeks earlier, Kiana Brown stood outside the iron gates of the De Luca estate, her worn sneakers a stark contrast to the pristine cobblestone driveway beyond. The morning sun hadn't yet burned through Chicago's October chill, and she pulled her thin jacket tighter around her frame. "You're early," the security guard noted, his voice crackling through the intercom. "Mrs. Chen doesn't start interviews until 9. "I know," Kiana replied, her voice steady despite the anxiety coiling in her stomach. "I wanted to make a good impression." The gate buzzed open, and she stepped into a world that might as well have existed on another planet. Manicured hedges lined the driveway, each one trimmed with mathematical precision. The mansion itself sprawled across the property like a modern palace, all sharp angles and floor-to-ceiling windows that probably cost more than her entire apartment building. She thought of the eviction notice tucked in her purse. 3 months behind on rent. Her grandmother's medical bills had demolished her savings, and now, 6 months after losing her, Kiana was drowning in debt with a bachelor's degree in linguistics that had gotten her exactly nowhere. The housekeeping position was her last hope. Mrs. Chen, the head of household staff, was a small woman with sharp eyes that missed nothing. She led Kiana through a side entrance past a kitchen that looked like it belonged in a 5-star restaurant. "Mr. De Luca values discretion above all else," Mrs. Chen explained, her heels clicking against marble floors. "You see nothing. You hear nothing. You speak to no one about this household. Is that clear?" "Crystal clear," Kiana assured her. "Good. The pay is excellent, but the rules are non-negotiable. You'll work the day shift 6 to 2. Mr. De Luca is rarely here during those hours." Mrs. Chen paused, her expression softening slightly. "He's a very private man. If you do encounter him, keep your eyes down and move on. Don't speak unless spoken to." Kiana nodded, ignoring the unease settling in her chest. She'd heard the rumors about Matteo De Luca. Everyone in Chicago had. Real estate mogul, they called him in the papers. But the whispers on the street told a different story. The De Luca family had controlled Chicago's underworld for 3 generations, and Matteo had taken the reins 5 years ago after his father's retirement. But rumors didn't pay rent. The job was hers. Mrs. Chen handed her a uniform, black dress, white apron, sensible shoes, and assigned her to the East Wing. "Start with the library," she instructed. Mr. De Luca spent time there last night. The library was a cathedral of books, 3 stories of floor-to-ceiling shelves connected by a spiraling iron staircase. Kiana had never seen so many books in one place outside of a university. Her fingers itched to explore the spines, to lose herself in the leather-bound volumes that probably cost more than her monthly salary. Instead, she focused on dusting, on emptying the crystal ashtray, on erasing any trace of the man who inhabited this space. She was reaching for a glass on the massive oak desk when she noticed the book lying open. The text was Italian. She recognized it immediately, even though she hadn't read the language in years. Her grandmother had taught her, insisted she learn the language of their heritage, even though Kiana's mother had wanted to leave that part of their past behind. "La lingua è la chiave della nostra storia," Nonna used to say. "Language is the key to our history." Kiana's throat tightened with grief. She moved to close the book when a particular phrase caught her eye. Poetry. Dante's Inferno. She couldn't help herself. She read the passage, her grandmother's voice echoing in her memory as she translated the words in her mind. You read Italian. Kiana spun around so fast, she knocked the glass off the desk. It shattered on the marble floor in an explosion of crystal shards. Matteo De Luca stood in the doorway, and every warning Mrs. Chen had given her suddenly made perfect sense. He was tall, well over 6 feet, with the kind of presence that filled a room without effort. Dark hair, dark eyes, and a face that might have been handsome if it weren't so cold. He wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than her car, and he watched her with the intensity of a predator studying prey. I'm so sorry, Mr. De Luca, Kiana stammered, dropping to her knees to gather the broken glass. I'll replace it, Stop. His voice was quiet but absolute. You'll cut yourself. He moved forward, and Kiana froze. He was closer now, close enough that she could smell his cologne, something expensive and dangerous. He crouched beside her, and she forced herself to keep her eyes down, to remember Mrs. Chen's instructions. Look at me. It wasn't a request. Kiana raised her eyes slowly, meeting his gaze for the first time. Up close, she could see the faint scar along his jawline, the shadow of exhaustion beneath his eyes. He studied her face with an intensity that made her skin prickle. You read Italian, he repeated, but this time it was a statement. She should lie. Every instinct screamed at her to deny it, to play dumb. But something in his expression, curiosity maybe, or surprise, made her tell the truth. My grandmother taught me she was from Napoli. Something flickered across his face, too quick to identify. He stood abruptly, extending a hand to help her up. Kiana hesitated before taking it. His palm was warm, his grip firm but careful. Leave the glass, he said. Mrs. Chen will send someone. He released her hand and moved to the desk, closing the book she'd been reading. Most people see Italian and think it's Spanish, or they don't notice it at all. I noticed, Kiana said quietly, then immediately regretted speaking. Mrs. Chen's warning rang in her ears, but Matteo didn't seem angry. If anything, he looked intrigued. What's your name? Kiana Brown, sir. How long have you worked here, Kiana Brown? This is my first day. The corner of his mouth twitched, not quite a smile, but close. Interesting first day. He pulled a business card from his pocket and held it out to her. My private number. If you ever see something that concerns you, something in Italian perhaps, call me directly. Kiana took the card with trembling fingers. I don't understand. You don't need to. Just know that discretion will be rewarded. He moved toward the door, then paused. And Kiana? Don't mention this conversation to anyone, especially not Mrs. Chen. He left before she could respond, his footsteps fading down the hallway. Kiana stared at the card in her hand, her mind racing. What had just happened? Why would one of the most dangerous men in Chicago give his personal number to a maid he'd just met? She should quit. She should walk out right now and find another job, any other job. But she thought of the eviction notice, the empty refrigerator in her apartment, the medical bills still arriving in her grandmother's name. She tucked the card in her pocket and finished cleaning the library. When Mrs. Chen came to check on her an hour later, she said nothing about Matteo De Luca. She simply nodded at the pristine room and moved on to her next assignment. But that night, alone in her tiny apartment, Kiana pulled out the business card and stared at the number. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Thank you for your discretion. Your grandmother would be proud. MD. Her heart stopped. How did he know about her grandmother? How did he have her number? Before she could overthink it, another text arrived. Sleep well, Kiana Brown. Tomorrow will be interesting. She didn't sleep at all. What secret did Matteo De Luca discover about Kiana? Why would a mafia boss take interest in a simple maid? The connection between them runs deeper than either could imagine, and what happens next will change everything. Keep watching to uncover the truth that's been hidden for decades. Kiana arrived at the mansion the next morning with her guard up and her resignation letter drafted in her mind. Whatever game Matteo De Luca was playing, she wanted no part of it. But the moment she stepped through the service entrance, Mrs. Chen intercepted her with news that turned her world sideways. "Mr. De Luca has requested you specifically," the head housekeeper said, her expression unreadable. "You're to report to his office at 7 sharp. "Why?" The word escaped before Kiana could stop it. Mrs. Chen's lips pressed into a thin line. "One doesn't question Mr. De Luca. One obeys." The walk to his office felt like a march to the gallows. Kiana's mind spun through possibilities, each worse than the last. Had she done something wrong? Was he going to fire her? Or worse, far worse, was this about something darker, something connected to the rumors that swirled around the De Luca name like smoke? She knocked twice on the heavy oak door. "Enter." Kiana pushed open the door to find Matteo seated behind a desk that could have doubled as a landing strip. Papers covered the surface, and he was speaking rapid Italian into his phone, his free hand gesturing sharply. He looked up as she entered, his dark eyes tracking her movement across the room. "Aspetta," he said into the phone, then covered the speaker. "Sit." Kiana perched on the edge of a leather chair, her posture rigid. She watched him finish his conversation, noting the way his jaw tightened, the way his fingers drummed against the desk. Whatever he was discussing, it wasn't good news. He ended the call and leaned back in his chair, studying her with that same unsettling intensity from yesterday. "Do you know why you're here, Kiana?" "No, sir. I have a problem," he said simply, "and I believe you might be the solution." Her stomach dropped. "I'm just a housekeeper." "No," he corrected, his voice soft but absolute. "You're a woman who speaks fluent Italian, who was raised by a grandmother from Napoli, and who, according to the background check I ran last night, has a degree in linguistics with a focus on Romance languages." Kiana's blood went cold. "You investigated me?" "I investigate everyone who works in my home." He pulled a folder from his desk drawer and slid it across to her. "But you're particularly interesting." She didn't want to look, didn't want to see her life reduced to documents and data points, but curiosity won. Inside the folder she found her college transcripts, employment history, and her breath caught a photo of her grandmother. "Carmela Rossini," Matteo said quietly. She left Napoli in 1962, came to America with nothing, raised 3 children alone after her husband died, worked 3 jobs to put food on the table. A remarkable woman. Tears pricked Kiana's eyes. "How do you know all this?" "Because my grandfather knew her." He paused, letting the words sink in. "They grew up in the same neighborhood in Napoli. According to his journals, they were friends before she left Italy." The room tilted. "That's impossible." "Is it?" Matteo stood and walked to the window, his back to her. "Your grandmother never mentioned the De Luca family." Kiana ransacked her memories. Nonna had spoken often of Napoli, of the narrow streets and the sea breeze. Served neighbors who became family. But she'd also been careful, always editing her stories, always leaving gaps that younger Kiana had been too naive to notice. "She mentioned people," Kiana said slowly, "but never by full names. She'd say, 'My friend Giovanni,' or 'Little Matteo who chased cats.' She used to laugh and say some stories were better left in the old country." Matteo turned to face her, and something in his expression had softened. "Little Matteo was my grandfather. Your grandmother helped hide him when rival families came looking for his father. She was 16. He was 10. He never forgot that kindness." The pieces were falling into place, forming a picture Kiana wasn't sure she wanted to see. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I need someone I can trust," he said bluntly. "Someone who understands Italian, who knows how to be invisible, who has no connections to my world. I have meetings, phone calls, documents that require absolute discretion. Mrs. Chen is loyal, but she doesn't speak Italian. My regular staff. Let's just say recent events have made me question loyalties. You want me to spy for you?" "I want you to survive," he corrected, his voice hardening. "There's a difference. Someone in my organization is feeding information to my enemies. Until I find out who, everyone is a suspect. Everyone except you." "Why except me?" He moved closer, and Kiana's breath caught. Because your grandmother taught you something that my money can't buy. Honor. She could have sold information about my grandfather's location. She could have turned him over to his enemies. She chose protection instead. That kind of integrity runs in blood. You're insane, Kiana whispered. I'm a housekeeper. I can't. You can. He pulled an envelope from his pocket and placed it on the desk between them. That's $20,000. Consider it a signing bonus. Kiana stared at the envelope like it might explode. I don't want your money. Then do it for your grandmother's memory. Do it because she saved my grandfather's life, and now I'm asking you to help save mine. His voice dropped lower, almost gentle. Or do it because that eviction notice in your purse needs to be dealt with in 3 days. Shame burned through her. You have no right. I have every right, he interrupted, but not unkindly. I protect what's mine. And whether you realize it yet or not, you're under my protection now. Your grandmother saw to that decades ago. What if I say no? Mateo's expression darkened. Then you walk out that door, and I'll respect your choice. But know this, my enemies don't care about collateral damage. If they've noticed me talking to you, if they've seen me give you attention, you're already in danger. At least working for me, I can keep you safe. It was a cage dressed up as opportunity. But as Kiana looked at the envelope, thought about her empty bank account and the hungry nights ahead, she realized he was right about one thing. She was already involved whether she liked it or not. What exactly would I have to do? Relief flashed across his face. There and gone in an instant. For now, continue your normal duties. But when I have meetings here at the mansion, you'll serve refreshments. You'll listen. You'll remember. And you'll report back to me privately. And if someone finds out, they won't. He moved to his desk and pulled out a new phone still in its box. This is for you. It has one contact, me. If you ever feel unsafe, if you hear anything unusual, you call immediately, day or night. Kiana took the phone with numb fingers. This is insane. Welcome to my world. He almost smiled. You'll adapt faster than you think. Your grandmother did. What happened to her? The question burst out before she could stop it. Why did she really leave Napoli? Mateo's expression shuttered. That's a story for another time. Right now I need your answer. Are you in or are you out? Kiana thought of her grandmother, of the way she'd always insisted Kiana learn Italian despite her mother's protests. Someday you'll need this, Nonna had said. Someday our past will catch up to us and you'll need to understand. Had she known? Had she somehow predicted this impossible moment? I'm in, Kiana heard herself say. But I have conditions. Mateo's eyebrow rose. Bold. I like it. Name them. No one gets hurt because of me. If I hear something that would put someone in danger, I want the option to refuse to share it. Agreed, within reason. And when this is over, when you find your traitor, I get to walk away. No strings, no obligations. Something flickered in his eyes. Disappointment, maybe, or surprise, but he nodded. Fair enough. Anything else? Yes. She met his gaze squarely. I want to know what really happened to my grandmother in Napoli. I want the whole truth. Mateo was silent for a long moment. That truth could change how you see her. She's dead. Nothing can change what I feel for her now. Then we have a deal. He extended his hand. Kiana shook it, feeling the warmth of his palm, the controlled strength in his grip. When he released her, she felt branded somehow, marked by a touch that seemed to linger long after he let go. Go about your normal duties today, he instructed. Tonight I have a meeting here at 8. You'll serve drinks. Just observe. Don't speak unless spoken to. What should I be looking for? Anything unusual. Anyone who seems nervous, who asks too many questions, who lingers where they shouldn't. He paused. And Kiana, be careful. These men are dangerous. Don't let them know you understand Italian. She nodded and turned to leave, but his voice stopped her at the door. Your grandmother would be proud of you. Kiana looked back. How can you possibly know that? Because she told my grandfather once that her greatest hope was for her family to be strong enough to make hard choices. You just made one of the hardest. His expression softened, almost imperceptibly. That takes courage. As Kiana left his office, she realized she was shaking. She'd just agreed to spy for a Mafia boss. She'd just walked willingly into a world of violence and secrets. But as she tucked the envelope into her purse, enough money to save her apartment and buy groceries for a month, she couldn't bring herself to regret it. Not yet, anyway. Kiana has just stepped into a dangerous game she doesn't fully understand. Tonight, she'll attend her first meeting and discover that some secrets are more deadly than others. What will she hear? Who can she trust? The answers will shock you. Keep watching as the truth begins to unravel. The meeting room was designed to intimidate. Dark wood paneling, a table that could seat 20, and lighting that cast shadows in all the right places to obscure expressions. Kiana entered carrying a tray of expensive whiskey and crystal glasses, her movements practiced, her expression neutral. She'd spent the afternoon memorizing faces from photos Matteo had provided. Marco Benedetti, second in command, loyal for 20 years. Luca Caruso, head of security, former military. Antonio Ricci, financial advisor, handles the legitimate businesses. Vincent Calabrese, the wild card, newly promoted after the previous captain died in a car accident. They barely glanced at her as she set down the tray. To them, she was furniture, invisible, forgettable, beneath notice. Perfect. Matteo sat at the head of the table, power radiating from him like heat. He nodded curtly at her, all business, giving no indication that she was anything more than household staff. "Gentlemen," he began in English, "we have a problem." Kiana positioned herself near the sidebar, within earshot, but out of the direct sightline. She kept her eyes down, her hands busy arranging glasses, playing her role. "Someone leaked information about the North Side shipment," Matteo continued. "The feds knew exactly when and where to look. We lost $2 million in product and 3 good men are facing federal charges." "It could have been bad luck," Marco suggested, his voice careful. "The feds have been increasing surveillance." "It wasn't luck." Matteo's voice cut like a blade. It was betrayal. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. "You're accusing one of us." Vincent Calabrese leaned back in his chair, his posture deceptively casual. "That's a serious charge, boss." "I'm stating facts," Matteo corrected. "Only 6 people knew the details of that shipment, everyone in this room, and 2 men who are now dead. So unless you believe in ghosts, Vincent, the traitor is sitting at this table." Kiana's heart raced as she processed his words. 2 men dead. Because of a leak. Because of betrayal. "What do you propose?" Luca asked, his military training evident in his clipped tone. "A test," Matteo said. Then, without warning, he switched to Italian. "Voglio che ognuno di voi riceva informazioni false, informazioni che solo voi conoscerete. Quando quella informazione arriverà ai nostri nemici, saprò chi mi ha tradito." Kiana's breath caught. He wanted to feed each man different false information. When that information reached his enemies, he'd know who betrayed him. But here's what made her blood run cold. Marco responded in Italian, his tone carefully neutral. "E quando troverai il traditore?" "And when you find the traitor." Matteo's smile was colder than a Chicago winter. "Allora sistemeremo il problema, permanentemente. Then we'll solve the problem, permanently." The conversation continued, but Kiana's mind was reeling. She was in a room with men casually discussing murder. Men who would kill without hesitation, without mercy. She wanted to run, wanted to throw down her tray and sprint for the door. But then Vincent spoke and everything changed. "Forse il problema non è tra noi," he said in Italian, his eyes flickering just for a second toward where Kiana stood. "Forse dovremmo guardare più vicino a casa. Il personale, per esempio. Maybe the problem isn't among us. Maybe we should look closer to home. The staff, for example." Every muscle in Kiana's body locked. "Don't react. Don't show you understand." Matteo's gaze swung toward her, his expression unreadable. Then he stood, switching back to English. "The staff is not your concern, Vincent. That's my domain. Your concern is finding out who's selling our secrets." He moved to the sidebar where Kiana stood, reaching past her for the whiskey bottle. As he did, he leaned close enough that only she could hear his whisper. Don't move, don't react, you're perfect. Then louder in English, you can go. We'll serve ourselves. Kiana nodded, grateful for the dismissal. She collected the empty glasses with steady hands. Years of waitressing had taught her how to hide trembling, and walked toward the door. Wait. Vincent's voice stopped her cold. What's your name, sweetheart? Don't answer in Italian, don't give anything away. She turned, keeping her eyes respectfully lowered. Kiana, sir. Pretty name. How long have you worked here? 2 days, sir. Vincent exchanged a glance with Marco. Convenient timing. Enough. Matteo's voice cracked like a whip. She's been thoroughly vetted. Move on. But Vincent wasn't done. He stood walking toward her with the lazy confidence of a predator. You don't speak Italian, do you, Kiana? Her heart hammered. No, sir. Just English. Good. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Then, in rapid Italian, Perché se capissi quello che abbiamo appena detto, saresti morta entro domattina. Because if you understood what we just said, you'd be dead by tomorrow morning. Kiana forced herself to look confused, to tilt her head slightly as if trying to parse unfamiliar sounds. I'm sorry, sir. I don't understand. Vincent studied her face for a long, terrible moment. Then he laughed. Smart girl, keep it that way. He waved her off, and Kiana walked out of the room with measured steps. It wasn't until she reached the kitchen that she allowed herself to lean against the wall, gulping air, her hands finally shaking. You okay? Mrs. Chen appeared from nowhere, her sharp eyes missing nothing. Fine, Kiana managed. Just intense in there. Mr. DeLuca's business is not our concern, Mrs. Chen reminded her, but not unkindly. You did well. He'll be pleased. Kiana nodded and escaped to the staff bathroom. She locked the door and sank onto the closed toilet seat, her mind racing. Vincent suspected her. He'd practically threatened her in Italian, testing to see if she'd react. And Matteo. Matteo had trusted her to hold it together, had whispered encouragement when no one else could hear. Her new phone buzzed in her pocket. A text from Matteo. Library now. Service entrance. Don't be seen. Kiana waited 5 minutes, enough time for her hands to stop shaking, then made her way through the mansion's back corridors. She knew the house layout now, knew how to move through it like a ghost. The library was dark except for a single lamp. Matteo stood by the window, his silhouette sharp against the night sky. Close the door, he said without turning. She did, and suddenly the vast room felt very small. You did beautifully, he said, finally facing her. Even I almost believed you didn't understand. Vincent suspects. Vincent suspects everyone. It's why he's still alive. Matteo moved closer. But you were flawless. The confusion, the body language, everything was perfect. He threatened to kill me. The words tumbled out. In Italian. He said if I understood what you all said, I'd be dead by morning. Something dangerous flashed across Matteo's face. He won't touch you. I'll make sure of it. How can you promise that? Because you're under my protection and everyone knows it now. He pulled out his phone and typed something quickly. I just assigned a security detail to you. They'll be invisible, but they'll be there. Vincent makes a move. He's dead before he can blink. This is insane, Kiana whispered. I'm in over my head. I should quit. I should... Breathe. Matteo's hands were suddenly on her shoulders, steady and warm. You're safe. I promise you, Kiana. You're safe. She looked up at him, this dangerous man who spoke of murder like other people discussed the weather. But in his eyes, she saw something unexpected, genuine concern, maybe even fear, for her. Why do you care? The question escaped before she could stop it. I'm nobody. You're not nobody. His voice was fierce. Your grandmother saved my grandfather's life. That creates a debt that spans generations. But beyond that, he paused, seeming to struggle with words. You remind me of her, of Carmela. The way you hold yourself, the way you face fear without flinching. She had that same steel core. You never met her. No. But my grandfather told me stories. He loved her, you know. Not romantically, she was like a sister to him, but he loved her fiercely. When she left Italy, it broke his heart. Matteo's expression softened. He made me promise once when I was young. He said, "If you ever meet Carmela's family, you protect them. You give them what I couldn't give her, safety." Tears pricked Kiana's eyes. What couldn't he give her? That story is for another day. He released her shoulders and stepped back, the moment of vulnerability vanishing behind his usual mask. "Right now, we focus on survival. I need you to tell me everything you remember from that meeting." Kiana recited the conversation, translating the Italian portions, noting every expression and gesture she'd observed. Matteo listened intently, occasionally asking for clarification. "Vincent is definitely suspicious," he said when she finished, "but Marco, his response about finding the traitor seemed genuine. What will you do?" "Set my trap. Feed them each different information, see which one reaches our enemies." His jaw tightened. "And when I find who betrayed me, I'll handle it personally, by killing them." "Yes. No hesitation, no apology. In my world, betrayal has only one punishment." Kiana should have been horrified, should have been disgusted, but all she felt was a strange understanding. This was his world, his rules. He hadn't asked her to participate in violence, only to observe, to listen, to help him protect what was his. "I should go," she said. "It's late. And if anyone sees us—" "Wait." He moved to his desk and pulled out another envelope. "Your first week's pay, plus a bonus for tonight." "I don't want—" "Take it." His tone left no room for argument. "You earned it. You kept your cool when most people would have panicked. That's worth more than you know." Kiana took the envelope, feeling the weight of bills inside. It felt wrong somehow, being paid to spy. But then she thought of her apartment, her empty refrigerator, the constant anxiety of poverty. "Thank you," she said quietly. "Don't thank me yet." Matteo's expression was grim. "This is just the beginning. Things will get more dangerous before they get better." "How much more dangerous?" He met her eyes. "Depends on how smart our traitor is." "But Kiana, promise me something." "What?" "If you ever feel unsafe even for a second, you use that phone. You call me immediately. I don't care if it's 3 in the morning or the middle of a meeting. You call." The intensity in his voice made her shiver. "I promise." "Good." He walked her to the door, checking the hallway before letting her slip out. "Be careful going home. My men will follow at a distance, but stay alert." As Kiana made her way through the dark mansion and out to her car, she felt eyes watching her, not menacing but protective. Matteo's security detail, keeping their distance, but keeping watch. She should have felt trapped, should have felt like a pawn in a deadly game. Instead, for the first time in months, she felt something unexpected. Protected. Kiana has passed her first test, but Vincent's suspicions are far from settled. As Matteo sets his trap to catch the traitor, the danger escalates. Someone is watching, someone is waiting, and the next move could be deadly. What secret from her grandmother's past will come to light? Keep watching, the revelation will change everything. 3 days later, everything fell apart. Kiana was cleaning Matteo's study when the door burst open. Luca rushed in, blood on his shirt, his face pale. "Boss, we have a problem. Marco's dead, shot twice in his own home, and Vincent." He paused, glancing at Kiana. "Should she be here?" "Yes." Matteo's voice was steel. "Talk." "Vincent's in the wind. Left his post 2 hours ago. Phone's off. Apartment cleared out." "The information you fed him?" "It reached the Calabrese family this morning." Matteo's face went blank, the most terrifying expression Kiana had ever seen. "Find him. I want him alive." "Boss, there's more." Luca pulled out his phone. "Vincent left this for you." He played a video. Vincent's face filled the screen, his smile sharp and cruel. "Ciao, Matteo. By now you know I played you. Did you really think I wouldn't figure out your little test?" He laughed. "But here's the thing, I'm not the only traitor. Your pretty little maid? She's been working for me since day one. She speaks Italian, boss. She understood every word." Kiana's blood turned to ice. "She's probably standing right there trying to look shocked. Don't believe her. She's been feeding me information from the start. Why do you think I questioned her that night? I was confirming she was in place. The video ended. Silence filled the study like poison gas. Slowly, Matteo turned to look at Kiana. His eyes were empty, cold, the eyes of a killer. Is it true? No. Her voice shook but held firm. Matteo, I swear to you it's not true. I never... Luca, leave us. Boss, if she's... Leave. Us. Each word was carved from ice. Luca left, casting one last suspicious glance at Kiana. The door closed. Kiana stood frozen, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might crack her ribs. Matteo moved toward her with the deliberate grace of a predator. She wanted to run, to explain, to defend herself, but words died in her throat. You speak Italian, he said softly. You've always spoken Italian. Yes, but I never... You listened to my conversations, you reported back, just like I asked. To you, only to you. Desperation bled through her voice. Matteo, I swear on my grandmother's grave, I never spoke to Vincent. I never betrayed you. He was so close now she could see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes, could feel the dangerous energy radiating from him. Vincent knew too many details, things only you could have heard. Then he was listening, or someone else was feeding him information. Kiana's fear transformed into anger. You really think I'd risk my life for him? After he threatened to kill me, I'm not stupid, Matteo. No, he agreed, his voice still terrifyingly soft. You're not. But you are broke, desperate and loyal to a dead woman who left Italy under mysterious circumstances. That makes you vulnerable. Exploitable. I'm not a traitor. Prove it. How? Tears of frustration burned her eyes. How do I prove something I didn't do? Matteo pulled out his phone and played another recording. This one audio only. Vincent's voice filled the room, speaking to someone else. The girl doesn't know anything. I made that video to turn him against her, to keep him distracted while we move our operation. Matteo trusts her because of some bullshit about her grandmother. We can use that. The second voice was familiar, shockingly familiar. Antonio Ricci, the financial advisor. What about Marco? Dead by morning. He was getting too close to the truth. The recording ended. Kiana's legs went weak. You were testing me. Yes. No apology in his voice. I needed to see how you'd react when accused. If you'd panic or run or crack under pressure. You bastard. The words escaped in a whisper. You terrified me. I had to be sure. Something flickered across his face. Regret, maybe, or shame. In my world, trust is a luxury I can't afford, not even with you. Kiana wanted to slap him, wanted to scream. But beneath the anger, she understood. He'd been betrayed by men he'd known for years. Why should she be any different? So you believe me now? I never disbelieved you, he admitted, but I needed to be absolutely certain. Lives depend on it. Your life depends on it. Vincent will come after me now, won't he? Since you know the truth. Yes? Matteo's jaw tightened. Which is why you're not going home. You're staying here, where I can protect you. I can't just... You can, and you will. He pulled out his phone and made a call. Luca, send a team to collect Kiana's essentials from her apartment. Everything she needs for an extended stay. Yes, now. He hung up and turned back to her. You'll have a room in the private wing. No one enters that area without my permission. You'll be safe. For how long? Until this is over. He moved to the window, his profile sharp against the evening light. Vincent and Antonio have been planning this for months. They've been selling our territory to the Calabrese family piece by piece. Marco found out, so they killed him. They tried to frame you to keep me distracted. Why frame me specifically? Matteo was silent for a long moment. Because they knew I cared. The admission hung in the air between them, heavy with meaning. You barely know me, Kiana whispered. I know enough. He turned to face her, and the emptiness in his eyes had been replaced by something fiercer, more dangerous. You're brave, honest, and loyal to a fault. You remind me that not everyone in my world is corrupted by it. And yes, because of your grandmother, because of that connection. He trailed off, seeming to struggle with words. She saved my grandfather. Now I'm saving you. It's fitting. I don't need saving. Yes, you do. And whether you admit it or not, you've needed it since the day you walked through my gates. His voice softened. Let me help you, Kiana. Let me be what my grandfather couldn't be for your grandmother. Protection, stability, safety. In exchange for what? Nothing. The single word was absolute. This isn't a transaction anymore. This is me keeping a promise to a dead man and honoring a woman who deserved better than the life she got. Kiana's throat tightened. What happened to her in Napoli? You said you'd tell me. Matteo was silent for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, she witnessed a murder. The Battaglia family, rivals to ours, killed a city official in broad daylight. Your grandmother saw everything. She was 18, working at a market stall. They would have killed her too, but my grandfather hid her in our family's home for 3 days until we could smuggle her onto a ship to America. Kiana's world tilted. She never said. She was protecting you, protecting all of you. Matteo's expression was grave. The Battaglia family is gone now, destroyed in a war 30 years ago. But your grandmother lived her entire life looking over her shoulder, terrified they'd find her. That's why she never went back to Italy. That's why she taught you the language, but never explained why it mattered. She knew I might need it someday, Kiana realized. She knew this world might find me. Legacy is a strange thing, Matteo agreed. We carry our ancestors' choices whether we want to or not. A knock on the door interrupted them. Luca entered with a woman Kiana didn't recognize, early 30s, efficient-looking, carrying several bags. This is Sofia, Matteo introduced. She'll help you get settled. Your room is ready. Sofia smiled warmly. This way, Miss Brown. Kiana followed her out, but paused at the door, looking back at Matteo. When this is over, when Vincent and Antonio are caught, what happens to me? He met her gaze. That's up to you. You can walk away like we agreed, or... He trailed off, leaving the possibility hanging. Or you can stay. Not as a spy. Not as staff. As someone who belongs here. Someone I trust. His voice dropped lower. Someone I need. The words sent a shiver through her. She didn't respond, didn't know how to respond. Instead, she simply nodded and followed Sofia down the hallway. The room Sofia led her to was nothing like the servants' quarters. It was a suite, bedroom, sitting area, private bathroom, decorated in soft creams and golds. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the gardens, and a door led to a private balcony. Mr. De Luca had this prepared for you specifically, Sofia explained, setting down the bags. Everything you need is here. Clothes, toiletries, electronics. If you need anything else, just call. My number is programmed into the house phone. This is too much. Sofia's smile was knowing. Mr. De Luca doesn't do anything halfway, especially when it comes to people he cares about. After Sofia left, Kiana explored the space, still half expecting to wake up from this surreal dream. The closet held clothes in her exact size, designer labels she'd never imagined wearing. The bathroom had luxury toiletries that probably cost more than her monthly grocery budget. She sank onto the bed, soft as clouds, and let the tears finally come, not from fear or anger, but from the overwhelming weight of everything that had changed in just 4 days. A knock on the balcony door made her jump. She wiped her eyes quickly and found Matteo standing outside, 2 glasses of wine in his hands. "May I?" he asked through the glass. She opened the door and he stepped inside, handing her a glass. "I wanted to apologize," he said, "for testing you that way. It was cruel, even if it was necessary." "It hurt," she admitted, "feeling like you didn't trust me." "I know, and I'm sorry." He took a sip of wine, his eyes on the darkening sky. "Trust is hard for me. I've been betrayed too many times, watched too many people I cared about die because I trusted the wrong person." "Is that what happened to your father?" His jaw tightened. "My father died because he trusted his own brother. My uncle sold him out to the feds, hoping to take over the family. Instead, my father had a heart attack in prison, and I took over at 25. My uncle." He paused. "Let's just say he won't be betraying anyone else." Kiana understood the implication. "You killed him. Yes. No hesitation, no remorse. And I'd do it again. Family is everything in my world, but betrayal of family is unforgivable. They stood in silence, sipping wine, watching the gardens below fill with shadows. "Why do you really want me to stay?" Kiana asked quietly. "It's not just about my grandmother, is it?" Matteo was quiet for a long time. "No," he finally admitted. "It's because when I look at you, I see something I thought I'd lost forever. Innocence, hope, the possibility of something good. You don't belong in my world, Kiana. But God help me. I don't want to let you go." Her breath caught. "Matteo." He set down his glass and took hers, placing it beside his on the balcony railing. Then he cupped her face in his hands, his touch gentle despite the calluses. "Tell me to leave," he whispered. "Tell me this is wrong, that you want nothing to do with me. Say it and I'll walk away. I'll still protect you, but I'll keep my distance." Kiana knew she should do exactly that, should push him away, draw the line, keep this professional. But when she looked into his eyes, she saw the same loneliness that haunted her, the same desperate need for connection, for someone who understood the weight of carrying other people's secrets and sorrows. "I can't," she whispered. He kissed her then, slow and deep, and Kiana felt something inside her crack open, walls she'd built around her heart crumbling like sand. This was dangerous, stupid, completely insane, but it felt more right than anything had in years. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Matteo rested his forehead against hers. "This changes everything," he said. "I know. Vincent will use it against us. Antonio, too. I know. You could still die because of me. I know." She pulled back enough to meet his eyes. "But I could also die crossing the street tomorrow. At least this way I'm choosing my risk." He laughed, a rough sound of surprise and relief. "You're incredible." "I'm insane," she corrected. "But so are you, so we match." "What are we doing, Kiana?" "I have no idea," she admitted. "But let's figure it out together." He kissed her again, this time with an urgency that spoke of all the fear and danger surrounding them. When he finally left her room hours later, the sky was beginning to lighten with dawn. Kiana lay in her enormous bed, her lips still tingling, her heart still racing. She'd just complicated everything in the most spectacular way possible. But as she drifted off to sleep, protected by walls and guards and the dangerous man who'd somehow become her sanctuary, she couldn't bring herself to regret it, not even a little bit. 6 months later, Kiana stood in the gardens of the De Luca estate, supervising the final preparations for her grandmother's memorial. Matteo had flown in relatives from Italy, distant cousins Nonna had never mentioned, people who remembered Carmela Rossini before she became Carmela Brown. They'd embraced Kiana like family, sharing stories that filled in the gaps her grandmother had left, stories of courage and sacrifice, of a young woman who'd risked everything to protect a child who wasn't even her own. "She would have loved this," Matteo said, slipping his arm around her waist, "all of her people, together in one place." "She would have lectured you about the expense," Kiana corrected with a smile. "Then she would have cried and thanked you for an hour straight. I wish I'd known her. She knew you, in a way, through your grandfather's stories." Kiana leaned into him, solid and warm and safe. "She'd approve of us, I think." "Even though I'm a criminal?" "Especially because you're a criminal." She grinned. "Nonna had a thing for bad boys. Why do you think she married an American soldier who punched his commanding officer?" Matteo laughed, the sound rich and free. He laughed more now, smiled more. The constant tension that had defined him 6 months ago had eased, replaced by something softer. Vincent and Antonio were dead, killed in the raid that ended their betrayal. The Calabrese family had sued for peace, unwilling to continue a war they couldn't win, and Matteo had started the slow process of moving the family business legitimate. "I have something for you," he said, pulling a small box from his pocket. Kiana's heart stopped. "Matteo." "It's not a ring," he assured her quickly. "Not yet, anyway. We both agreed it's too soon for that." "Then what?" He opened the box to reveal a delicate gold necklace with a pendant, a tiny house with a tree growing through the center of it. "Your grandmother's house in Napoli," he explained. "My grandfather sketched it once from memory." I had it made into a pendant so you'd always carry a piece of her, a piece of where you came from. Tears blurred Kiana's vision. It's perfect. He fastened it around her neck, his fingers lingering on her skin. You're perfect, and before you argue, I know you're not. You're stubborn, you talk back, you never follow my security protocols. Because they're excessive. But you're perfect for me, he continued, ignoring her interruption. You balance me. You remind me there's more to life than power and violence. You make me want to be better. You are better, Kiana said fiercely. You're shutting down the illegal operations. You're helping people in the neighborhood. You're changing Mateo. Because you want to, not because I'm making you. You're making it possible, he corrected. That's the difference. Guests were beginning to arrive, and they separated reluctantly. Kiana moved through the crowd, greeting relatives, accepting condolences and congratulations in equal measure. She caught Mateo watching her from across the garden, his expression unguarded for once. In it, she saw love, fierce and possessive and completely devoted. She smiled back, touching the pendant at her throat. 6 months ago, she'd been desperate and alone, terrified of losing everything. Now she had everything she'd never dared to dream of: family, safety, love, and a future that stretched out bright and full of possibility. Her grandmother's choices had led her here, to this man, to this life. And Kiana would spend the rest of her days being grateful for the courage of a young woman in Napoli who'd chosen kindness over fear, protection over self-preservation. Legacy was a strange thing indeed, but sometimes, if you were very lucky, it was also a gift. From a desperate maid to the protected partner of Chicago's most powerful man, Kiana's journey proves that sometimes our past holds the key to our future. Her grandmother's courage saved Mateo's grandfather, and decades later, that single act of kindness created a love story neither of them saw coming. Would you risk everything for love? Would you step into a dangerous world for a chance at belonging? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe